Well, guys, it's the breaking news that none of us wanted to hear, but we did kind of fear it. Gabriel Jesus, it looks like, will be out for a period of months. According to breaking news, he will be having knee surgery. We knew he got a knee injury in Brazil. I mean, he left the squad. I mean, he wasn't going to play any more World Cup games. And originally, we thought that'd be about 3 weeks out. That's what everyone was saying. Every reporter was talking about 3 weeks out in a case of nursing an injury that he perhaps had prior to the tournament that maybe just got a little bit worse in the game against Cameroon for Brazil. Not the case. Tite himself actually said that there was nothing to do with an injury coming into the World Cup, said he would never have risked players playing, for the sake of a win and their welfare and all that. But it is what we first feared the most, really, which is we're talking about months, it's looking like, with that knee injury and an operation, Turkish.
Yeah, I mean, there's two players that we looked at going into this tournament as, number one, irreplaceable with the current squad we have. And Jesus was one of those, Partey being the other, and Partey's back, or he's coming back safe and sound. Have on the flip side, just our luck, Jesus, massive injury. When you look at the suggested time out, potentially 3 to 4 months, it doesn't bode well for him this season, because on top of those 3-4 months, you're going to have to wait for him to reach match fitness again. And by that time, we're looking, March, potentially April. The season ends end of May, so he's out for the majority of the rest of the season, which is damning to say the least.
I laugh because if I don't, I'll cry. Like it's that sort of like, typical, of course. And the thing that frustrates me is when you see in Arsenal there is an injury hit. And listen, by the way, I actually think we've had our fair share of luck with injuries. Don't get me wrong, Zinchenko's had a little bit of a spell out. We lost Del Neni for a couple months. We know Smith Rowe hasn't kicked a ball since August. So I'm not saying that everything's been all rosy on the injury front, but largely it's been okay for Arsenal, where Tottenham have had real problems, Liverpool have had some serious problems, Chelsea have as well. So don't get me wrong, we've had our fair share of luck as well on the injury front. But it's almost like, I look back at the end of last season, everyone was really beating us with that whole, you bottle top four. I was like, sure, there was elements of that. There was also key injuries to key players. And at least the one thing we can say, if there's any tiny little bit of good news in what is all bad news, is this has come before January and there's a chance to maybe address it and not, there's time to maybe try and deal with it. But it just... We know what an outfit we can be when he's fit. And Jesus has been so brilliant for us since we signed him. Yeah,
you can look at it like that, but then you already hearing FFP come up again, and you were on the watch list from the summer, and you look at previous January windows, especially the last one, and the lack of incomings. Yeah, it's before January, but in all honesty, even if the club are proactive and they move to get a striker in, because I think a striker should still have been in the plans. I just don't think it was a priority for January. I think when you look at our two options is not enough. And an injury like this proves that point, because now everything's on Eddie. Rightly or wrongly, everything's on Eddie now, and if something was to happen to him, then we are doomed in that sense. We might be doomed already, because Jesus' quality is in this squad irreplaceable, like I said. So yeah, even if we was to go bring in a striker in January, he needs to get used to Arteta, get used to the system. Would hope that he hits the ground running, but it's hard to say whether that'll be the case even if we do move in January. I just think it's a massive blow to us, and I've been happy all season, and I've been very different to seasons gone past in terms of how I've been viewing things, how I've been feeling, how connected I am to the club and the team. It's a massive blow, because I've always maintained that we have to hope for the best, and by hope for the best I meant on the injury front, because that was the only way that, in my opinion, we can sustain this form, this consistency. I won't say title challenge yet, because it's far from that. It's only 14 games, but it's just a hammer blow at probably the worst time, because other teams are going to be looking at it now and thinking they're not the same team without Jesus in there, and they'd be right in thinking and saying that. So it's just... we can take one pro out of it, and that is it's just before January, a window we can do business in. But I think, we already seem to have plans with Mudryk in January, and potentially a midfielder, even though we haven't really been linked that hard. Maybe Danilo is the one we've been linked to most, but no solid links to that. I just don't see us doing the necessary business, whether it's through choice or through regulations and laws from the FFP. I just don't see it being fixed in January.
Okay, let's explore exactly what's been said. It was breaking news that came through Mike McGraw, I believe. Sorry, this is me frantically checking my notes, which I do have. Oh, no, I don't want to add another account. Sorry. Here's me opening everything up. Right. So it comes from the Telegraph.
Why are the Telegraph the ones like releasing this as well? Well, how did they manage to get it?
Don't know, Mike McGraw gets quite a lot of Arsenal news. Exclusive. Club could go without Brazil forward for up to several months, depending on healing time after the operation. Arsenal have been dealt a blow with Gabriel Jesus to undergo surgery on his World Cup knee injury. I can't speak today, sorry. On his World Cup knee injury and set for a spell on the sidelines. The 25-year-old was injured with suspected medial ligament damage during his country's Group G defeat to Cameroon, ruling him out for the rest of the competition in Qatar and returning to England for assessment. It is understood that he will need an operation to repair the problem, with the time out depending on how he heals, with some players taking months to return to action, meaning he should be a part of Arsenal's title challenge in the second half of the campaign. Will we still be in a title charge?
Yeah, that's a big question. That's leaning a lot more towards not than we will.
He then asks the questions you'd expect to ask. You know, will this change what Arsenal do in the transfer window? Will this change the priorities? Do we go for more out-and-out number 9, whereas before maybe we were looking at a wide forward who could play up top? I'm thinking the Sadio Mane type profile. He's a buying, I'm not saying him, but that kind of player who's always played wide but does a brilliant job up top and that kind of stuff. Brazil coach Tite described suggestions that Jesus was carrying an injury into the Cameroon game as evil lies. He said, "I don't like hearing lies out there, evil lies. At no point do we play for victory at the risk of a player's peril. The liar who's out there, because that's the name, isn't it? The haters, right? We are responsible, we are personally responsible, we are ethical, and it would never have happened. I didn't want this to happen. It's a shame. We are very sorry for Gabriel Jesus." Now, I have to say, when I heard rumours that he had a bit of an injury going into the World Cup, that did surprise me a little bit. I didn't really fixate on that point for a reason when I was doing these lives and the one with Curtis yesterday, because it didn't really make a lot of sense. Like, he didn't look a player who was struggling at any point. He was playing a lot of Europa League games. I don't remember Arteta bringing him off early and thinking that's strange, or trying to manage him in a particular way. He looked, okay, the goal scoring, slowed down a bit, but that was to be expected. We knew he wasn't an out-and-out goal scorer, so that was a strange one. What do we do? What do we do now, Turkish? Because first thing is obviously best wishes to Gabriel Jesus, but obviously there's the discussion of where Arsenal go forward. Now, I know that this is something we're going to discuss on the Forever Arsenal podcast, and I know the supporters club kind of you've touched on it as well. The Jesus stuff is really kind of dominating every Arsenal fans' thoughts at the moment. But there's some internal solutions and there's some external solutions. Externally, are you thinking now we got to go for an out-and-out number 9 more than maybe a Mudryk now?
It sounds like the right thing to say. But at the same time, you can bring in an out-and-out forward and then Martinelli or Saka gets burnt out, because the hope was to bring in a forward that can help rotate with them and help give them some breathing room heading into crunch time. Premier League, Europa League, FA Cup coming in. So it sounds like the right thing to say, to focus on the number 9. And if they was to do that, I get it, I understand it. But at the same time, God forbid, off the back of that, something that was to happen to one of our wingers because of being overplayed or being burnt out. So I guess the club made a big move in the summer, giving Eddie the new contract, giving Eddie the number 14 shirt. I guess we're going to move forward with Eddie in the starting lineup now. I think that goes without saying. It's the only other option we have. Even the young striker that we had on the bench this season in a couple of games, Edwards, he's just returned from surgery, or he's just had surgery on Saturn too. And I'm not saying rely upon him. I think he was 17 or 18. We're lacking depth in that position, James. So I understand if they was to go for a number 9, but that's not to say we don't need another forward or a winger. Not because Martinelli and Saka are not delivering, they are delivering. But we need to, help rotate and give them, the opportunities to rest in between games and have them fit and firing for the bigger one than not. And a Mudryk would have helped a lot with that. Now, if you ask me, do I think we should pull the plug on a Mudryk and get a number 9? No, I don't, because I still feel we need another forward. But at the same time, I think we need another number 9. It's so hard to say, and with FFP coming out now and us being on the watch list and all of that nonsense from the summer, it just feels like we're destined for a January that's underwhelming.
Really?
I thought January might be underwhelming even before the Jesus news. I don't think there's a chance that we come out of January being overly pleased with the recruitment, because I don't think we can recruit how we need to in January. People might lean on the club and Arteta and Edu and say it should have been done in the summer. I tend to agree. I think you need to go into the season with 3 strikers, maybe 2 similar, 1 a bit different, to throw a curveball in there. We didn't. I guess that's due to finances, not being part of Europe, playing in Europe last season, finishing 8th twice. That all has a part to play in it. So I won't get on their necks too much about last summer, because they were proactive, they brought in quality, and it's an unfortunate injury, because injuries happen, but 3-4 months out is a big chunk of the calendar year, let alone the season. So it's one of those ones that I felt deflated about, because it's unfortunate, and I don't think the club has the resources to fix it in January. I believe we've done enough good in the first 14 games to secure a top 4 finish come the end of the season, but this injury makes it so much more difficult to maneuver through the next 3, 4, 5 months of the season.
Yeah, I'm just having a look here. So, Jess from She Knows Arsenal, go check out the channel. She tweeted that it was the same injury as the one Xhaka got in the Tottenham game when we won 3-1 last season, and he was out for about 2 months. He will walk straight back into the 11, by the way. I mean, that guy, I've got to say, when it comes to fitness and injuries, he is a freak of nature. I mean, it's unbelievable. So the midfielder, 29, was ruled out for 3 months in late September after suffering damage to the medial ligament in his right knee during the 3-1 victory. So let me just quickly, we're on investigative work now. Let me just read exactly what. Suspected medial ligament damage. Yeah, okay. It sounds like the exact same thing. So, okay, I mean, it could be 2 months if all goes well. What's it, mid-December? You could be back mid-February. Man City, 15th Feb?
Nah, it's not happening. That's not happening.
If
they're saying potentially several months out, we're not seeing him again till early March at the earliest, in my opinion. Because he's yet to have the surgery, let's not forget. We're yet to see if the surgery is a success. We're yet to see if there's any setbacks once he touches grass again.
Dave Jordan says, you don't change your long-term transfer plans because of a 2 to 3 month injury. Well, Jordan, I do agree. And if there's one thing we probably learned from how well we started this season, when you compare it to the complaints we had about January, the one thing you'd say is, when there's an opportunity this good, do you at least bring plans forward? And one of the things that Curtis and I explored yesterday was Amy Lawrence's article in The Athletic, where she said that plans to bring in a midfielder and a forward this winter, they're not plans brought forward because of the opportunity that's arisen. They're actually unfinished plans from the summer. Arsenal had every intention of bringing in another midfielder and a striker anyway. So is it a case, I mean, I don't know how this works. I'm just trying to apply very basic logic, but you do the 2 deals you should have done in the summer, and maybe you do one more that's a bringing forward from the summer. I don't know. Surely they've got to be asking those kind of questions.
Yeah, I mean, look, I think the priorities leading up to January and next summer, depending on what we do in January prior to this injury, should have been 1, forward, and that would have been Mudryk, and number 2, central midfield cover for Partey, rotation option for Partey. That's not to say there wasn't 3 and 4 in that list, and I think 3 and 4 is depth in the Xhaka position, a rotational option for him, and a third striker. So I don't think it's necessarily changing the plans wholesale. I think it's restructuring the priorities and understanding or focusing on what's necessary now and what could wait until the summer. That's not to say you do what's necessary in January and the things that you thought could wait doesn't trip you up at the end. I guess that's part and parcel of the process, and having to get rid of so many names and bring in so many names over the last 2 years that the job is not done yet. I think another summer window would have saw the job in that sense, in reshaping the playing squad, come full circle. It just so happens that this injury comes just before the January window, where I don't really look at January as much of a big opportunity to improve the side as much as we'd like, because it's difficult to. But now, you know, you juggle priorities, and sometimes you have to focus on one more so than the other. It's up to the club to decide that. Like I said, I don't want to say we should focus on a number 9 now, because if we do focus on a number 9 and get a number 9 in, then we might have problems with Martinelli or Saka. And, you know, none of us can foresee this. So the club are in a sticky situation here in terms of what do we have in January in terms of in the bank with the budget, and what do we put that towards. Now, Mudryk has come out pretty openly over the last few weeks and shown his desire to come to Arsenal. I don't think we pulled a plug on that deal, because he's quality, and moving forward, his age, his profile, he'll only add and aid the squad we have now. But that will probably not leave us with much to bring in potentially a number 9. Now, I guess the loan market is where that comes into play now, when Arsenal have loaned players in over the last 4 or 5 years in January. I don't think any of them have gone well for us, but it's time to maybe look at a loan option that can do well for us, and that's probably the best avenue we have. Either that or Balogun comes back. But I just think if Balogun comes back, he won't. It's not like he comes in and steps into the first team. That's why we gave Eddie the contract and the number 14 shirt. So first and foremost, Eddie gets his opportunity here, and hopefully he grasps it with both hands like he did at the end of last season, and scores the goals necessary to not help us forget about Jesus, but help us through the patch without Jesus. But I have my doubts there too.
Yeah.
And if a match isn't going well, 70 minutes gone and we're 1-0 down, it's 0-0, or we're 2-1 down, and we need an option off the bench, now we have a real lack of firepower. That's not to say we didn't before, because one injury shouldn't, how do I put this? One injury shouldn't shake up the whole world, if that makes sense. We should have already known that that position is one injury away from problems.
Yeah.
So I'd hope that with what seems like a renewed, fresh approach from the ownership and the boardroom and so on downwards, that this would have already been in their plans, and they would have already had maybe a potential third choice, second choice striker option before this Jesus injury that now becomes more of a priority. But again, if it's a loan, you're not really going to bring in real quality. Unless, you know what? I don't know how true the Felix Atletico rumours are, where apparently they're open to loan with an obligation to buy. It might be something like that we have to do.
Yeah, well, for everyone asking, is this confirmed? You know, not discrediting anyone's sources, but it was only the one at the time, Mike McGrath at the Telegraph, but now it is Fabrizio Romano, who's come in 14 minutes ago, who reiterates that it's more serious than expected. Could miss several months, could be 3. Let's go through some of your comments, guys, see what you guys are saying. Yeah, people just putting out there that Romano has confirmed it. You're absolutely right. Some calls for Balogun to come back, but I don't think we'd want to mess what's been a really good development year for him. And I think if you're going to think about the long term when it comes to signing replacements for Aubameyang, then I think we should be consistent with that, and you know, think about the long term when it comes to a player's development like Balogun. Unless he feels he's going to play him week in, week out, which is brilliant. But if you bring him to sit on the bench, I just don't know if that does anything for Balogun.
It can, but you might be right too. You might be right. You know, it can in a sense where I already think Balogun's a guy that is confident in his ability and confident in making an impact at Arsenal because of the way he spoke around signing the contract and waiting to see, you know, what the club have in store for him.
Sure.
So he might see it as, this is my chance. This is my chance to come to Arsenal, get the game time that he believes he might deserve, and kick on and prove himself heading into the next season. At the same time, he might come in, the team is very different without Jesus playing, because as much as, all right, goals might have been a problem for him leading up to the World Cup, one thing that hasn't been a problem is how much importance he has to the starting 11. A lot of football goes through him. In terms of quality, he has the most quality on the ball in this squad by some distance, in my opinion. So, you know, it's hard to predict, but I guess bringing Balogun back is the easy option, and maybe the easy option is the option we go for because of the lack of resources we have. I don't think we've got that much money to spend in January.
We're going to find out, aren't we, in the coming weeks and next month, certainly. Noel says, Depay is cheap. Listen, we're talking about it, Curtis and I. It's not an option that I'm massively against, I've got to be honest. I know he's kind of been to a lot of clubs, and I think largely the consensus is he's not lived up to potential and expectation. But when you look at him, that goal he scored the other day for the Netherlands, his ability to play across the front three, drop into those pockets nicely. If you're talking 5 million and he's really wants to be a part of this, because we've seen now more than ever, especially in this Arsenal rebuild, it's about have they got that drive to make it work in the long term for Arsenal and all that, then I'd be interested in that.
Big risk, but a risk is going to have to be taken.
Yeah,
Depay, I like Depay, but there's a limit to how much I like him. I just don't think he is the one, and to commit to a player like that, if it would be a commitment, I'm not sure what sort of deal we could get done. Whether we could just get if it was just a loan, 100% I'd take him.
Yeah.
If it was a loan to buy, I'd be doubting it. If it was a sale, even if it was 5 million on a 2.5-year deal to minimize the risk, I still think it could have a massive impact.
Bring back Lacazette, some people are saying. This rate, I'll take Ronaldo for 6 months. Zaha came up yesterday in the live show we did, and we were both all for that. I would absolutely do Zaha. I think he's a fantastic option.
Well, the thing about Zaha is Mudryk. It seems that we're very much interested in Mudryk. He's very much interested in us. So in terms of the winger forward department, if that's who we're getting, then we might as well forget about Zaha. What are we going to do? Add two left wingers?
Zaha can play up front though, and can he's played up there for Palace many times, especially away at Big Six grounds, and done a real job up.
But again, his best attribute is running at defenders, cutting inside.
I guess.
So you'd limit that a bit. It's like putting Martinelli up top, for example. I know he hasn't got the experience there, but I much prefer Martinelli picking it up and driving towards the box rather than someone to pick it up in and around the box.
We've got some super chats. Abhishek says, this reminds me of the Eduardo injury, 2007-8, Arsenal season is over. Let me just give my 2 cents on this very quickly. The season's not over, guys. I think this Arsenal team, the way Arteta's built it over so long, it's kind of clearer more than ever that it's not dependent on one player or this one goal scorer and this one centre-back we rely on. And, who knew that Granit Xhaka would end up being one of our more important players, to the point where we're thinking, please don't get injured later today, right? He's built such an amazing cohesive unit. Now, that involves White and Zinchenko tucking in alongside Partey. They're part of our, playmaking. You've got players like Xhaka who's box to box. You've got Partey's at the base. But at the same time, we lost Odegaard, and we thought we don't have anyone in the squad who does what Odegaard does. And Vieira came in, and we played brilliantly at Brentford, one of the performances of the season. We lost Saka against Nottingham Forest, and we thought, okay, we're 1-0 up, but what about Chelsea next week? Turns out the injury wasn't so bad, but in that time Nelson played and scored 2 goals and was really good. Now, on the Eddie front, and again, I don't want to give too much, because we are going to explore some further Arsenal later, and I think I want to sit on it a little bit and then explore, and you guys will get the podcast tomorrow. But I just think on the Eddie front, I really do believe that in a team that is functioning the way it has been for the last few months, I think he can raise his level to it. Now, this isn't anything on Eddie Nketiah at all. The level will drop slightly because Jesus has been so brilliant for us. But that doesn't mean that the level everyone expects it to drop to can't be a lot higher. I think Eddie can absolutely come in. He did last season at the Bridge, games against Man United, away at West Ham. We didn't lose top 4 because of him. In fact, he came in and helped reignite the top 4 race. So I think he can do a big job for us. I do think we need to be looking to strengthen in January, not because of Eddie Nketiah, but because the squad is light anyway. Once you get an injury to Eddie, then it is done. Then we have no number 9, right? So that's how fragile it is. So do the business anyway. But in the meantime, I'm backing Eddie. He can do it. For now.
Well, I'm sure we're all backing Eddie, but we, as much as you say that, somewhere in that mind there's doubts, James.
Of course there is.
Do you know what I mean? And that's where the pessimism comes from. I guess that's what you'd call someone that's saying our season's over.
Yeah.
But it depends on what you expected from this season. I kept on leaning towards, we need Champions League football back regardless of us being top 5 points clear, because I needed to see the state we're in coming out of February.
Sure.
That included both getting through the World Cup and getting through January.
Yeah.
So we're getting through the World Cup.
Had a tricky January, by the way, not just from a transfers perspective, but those fixtures were horrible.
Yeah, and we won't really know until we touch February. Then, our game against Man City is scheduled for mid-February, so you might as well touch in on that and say, well, after that 90-minute game is over, then ask me what I think about our chances this season. But we're still on course to get Champions League football back. And I just had a supporters club last week about raising the standards. Zinchenko, Martinelli, both talking about challenging for the title instead of, talking about top four all the time. And I'm with them on that. I am with them on that. But at the same time, they also need to understand that, the way Arsenal fans have been treated by the club and the owners over the years, that we're never too far, or someone like me is never too far from thinking, shit, we can't turn this one around.
Yeah.
And that's how I feel about Jesus. But I look at last season, and look, we won a hell of a lot of games with duds up front. Okay, Oba's not a dud, but he was poor. Lacazette, for me, is a dud. I mean, what kind of striker was that towards the end of his Arsenal career? But we still managed to win games. We still managed to win away games as well. So I'm just hoping, again, it's hoping for the best, that Eddie, who, again, someone who seems confident in himself, you look at the way he spoke to Sambi in the All or Nothing, saying, something about...
You're not the only one who's not playing.
Exactly. I'd hope that he's ready and raring to go.
I think he will be.
He's got some friendlies now in between today and the West Ham fixture on Boxing Day. I just hope that he proves me wrong, in a sense. When he got the contract, I thought the club was wrong to do that. Forget about the sum, the weekly wage and the number 14 shirt. I just don't think we should have done it, but we did. So it's up to him now to prove Arteta, Edu, their faith right, and prove someone like me wrong, that he can, help direct and sail the ship towards goals that we want.
Yeah.
But we won't know now, and the problem is we won't know and the problem lies more so because there isn't a game from now up until West Ham, so it's just going to be worry, panic, ifs, buts, maybes, until that West Ham game, until that Brighton game, Newcastle, Tottenham. That's when we'll really know how much this injury has affected us.
Baked Potato with a super chat says Martinelli down the middle, Smith Rowe on the left, perhaps. Yeah, but I mean, don't forget, Smith Rowe's just had a long period out. He's had surgery, I believe. It won't be as easy as just. I mean, I think you're going to see basically Nelson and Nketiah getting the minutes far quicker than you're going to see Smith Rowe starting week in, week out.
I think you're probably more likely to see Smith Rowe false nine than you are Martinelli. Arteta said that last season. Remember, in February, he talked about Smith Rowe being a false nine. He didn't mention Martinelli up top, so I'd assume that if there was an option there in terms of false nine, then Emil might be the one. But like you said, he's returning off an injury. I think his return now is just about match fitness and getting him back to being match ready. So hopefully, listen, we'll see. If Mudryk comes in and hits the ground running and scores 8 to 10 goals, similar to Kulusevski's output last January, then I assume we won't be thinking too much about this injury and just wishing him the best in his recovery. But it's all ifs, buts and maybes. Yeah. There's a lot of downtime from now until that first game back, and it's just going to be because of this injury. It's just going to be worrying.
Yeah, you can see it on your screens there, guys. If you do want to celebrate Christmas with some AFTV merch, we've got Three Kings jumper here. Xmas10 is the code, guys. The link is in the description below. We've got some great stuff there. So, I mean, I'm very enthusiastic about Christmas, and I absolutely love these jumpers. I'm just really bummed out by this Jesus news. But honestly, there's some great stuff, guys. And actually, what we've got, next live show, I've showed you some when Goon Lee was in, the yellow one, the away kit. Yeah, there's some really cool stuff. So, guys, if you're looking for a Christmas present or anything, honestly, really, really recommend them. Oz is saying, Arsenal have been doing great business in the last few windows. Over 800,000 per week in wages were slashed last January. The title is gone, but top four for sure. Tom Charles says, we have Saka and Martin in the starting 11, ESR and Marquinhos on the bench, with Pepe being recalled if needed. We don't need another winger, in my opinion. KD says, two things. One, is it time to question the medical team? Lots of recurring injuries. And two, this is a chance for the team to step up and show we are a team. Big up. No, you can't blame the medical team. What happened when he was with Brazil? Love KD. KD. He, you know, I don't know if I've told you guys this story on this live. KD came to meet us in Orlando. Gave us some really nice tops he made for us. I've still got mine. I wear around the house. I love it. So good to see you, KD. KD always supporting the channel. But I do disagree that I don't think we can. It's just a question, to be fair. But I don't think we can look at the medical team, in my opinion. Bogo says, I heard Juve could be demoted. Vlahovic attempt 2. Vlahovic, yes or no?
Yes.
Smith Rowe, false 9, back on the manual to prove Mikel right, says Dave Jordan. Dylan, can we really still challenge the title? We were 5 points clear of Man City, and they're still, you know, playing brilliant football, clearly looking the better side, in my opinion, in these first 14 games, and people are still saying, I don't think we can win the league. So listen, it's a devastating blow for sure, but nothing's over, especially because you don't lose points for getting injuries. So Arsenal, see what you can do. Last thing I was going to ask you about very quickly, someone's got a screenshot. I've seen it go around on Twitter. Apparently, credit to Clockend H on Twitter for the find, but apparently Mudryk has posted to his story his worth or something. Let me have a little look. Emoji that shows his current worth at 40 million. We talked about it very briefly the other day, and we'll discuss it later because I'm going to tell you about the live we're doing later, guys. Exciting stuff. But he's what's he doing? He's trying to. Yeah, he's doing his bit, isn't he, to try and make this happen?
He's flirting a hell of a lot.
Yeah,
that's what it is. It's like a come and get me. At the same time, he's kind of, I think, balancing out Shakhtar's expectations as well.
Sure. He's
probably saying, look, this is what a company designed to value players is valuing me at. It seems like that's the value that Arsenal are putting on me. So, you know, make it happen. Let it happen.
Yeah. We're going to discuss that a little bit more, guys, as we are live at around 5 o'clock, so not long, in about 45 minutes time. We are doing a joint, I'll let you talk about it more, Turkish, but we are doing a joint stream charity FIFA match with Gunners versus Cancer. Looking forward to it. Tell us a little bit more about it.
Yeah, so Gunners versus Cancer, they do an annual FIFA tournament on PlayStation, on Xbox. So we've linked up with them this winter period to join in and help promote, because it's a very good cause they do it for. So big up Gunners versus Cancer, big up my cat in the US. It's quarter-final time, and that's when the AFTV members drop in. So Shords will be playing a couple quarter-finals from 5 p.m. on the live here, so make sure you're here. I'll be playing my quarter-finals coming closer to 6 p.m. right here, 2 legs back-to-back. And then tomorrow we've got the same thing, Stricto back-to-back quarterfinals, James back-to-back quarterfinals, and then we'll have a understanding of the semi-finals moving forward. But it's not necessarily about FIFA, it's about the cause, and it's about Gunners versus Cancer. And there'll be donation links provided in the description of the video later, 5 p.m. live. So if you enjoy FIFA, if you're someone that gives towards good causes, Gunners versus Cancer is definitely one of them. Come enjoy the stream, come enjoy watching us play FIFA. I heard Shorts is up against the defending champion.
No.
Yeah.
Wow.
So yeah, that should be a good one. But at this stage, you know, everyone that's in the quarterfinals has had to go through group stages, back-to-back games and so on to get here. So I'm sure there's quality all round. So make sure you guys are here. Tuning in 5 p.m. live, AFTV, Gunners versus Cancer, FIFA tournament, quarterfinals. Me and Shorts first up, tomorrow Stricto and James.
Guys, come join us at 5. We'll just quickly end on these super chats here. Don Robbie Desta says, no one dribbles like he does in the team. We can't focus on replicating what he does. We need to see who can play in that middle and get the goals instead. But yeah, that's an interesting point. We'll explore that more on Forever Arsenal tomorrow. Don Robbie Desta, obviously, he ain't flirting. He's
twerking. He's right, you're right. Flirting was a bit too, yeah. Twerking sounds better.
All right, we'll leave it there, guys. Remember, guys, in the link in the description below with code XMS10, you can pick up the Three Kings jumper and lots of other AFTV merch, Arsenal merch, Christmas merch, just, you know, stuff that, listen, we have the Arsenal merch debate all the time. I love wearing Arsenal merch, I love my stuff, but sometimes it's nice I just wear a t-shirt that supports my players, that feels a bit more around the house, out with my friends, whatever, like this. Like, it's just nice. I love wearing this.
Yeah, that's my favourite one.
Yeah, this is nice. Fits well as well. Guys, go check it out, and we'll catch you in 45 minutes. We'll see you then.
Love.